I want to ask you right away about the latest this morning from Rudy Giuliani on ABC News. Take a listen.
You said this was a regular arrangement he had with Michael Cohen. So did Michael Cohen make payments to other women for the president?
I have no knowledge of that, but I would think if it was necessary, yes.
What's your reaction to that? Do you have any indication there might be other women that we don't know about?
Well, Jake, I think that when all the facts and the evidence come out, there's going to be evidence of payments to other women. I think that's going to be laid bare for the American people. But I have to tell you, this interview that Rudy Giuliani gave this morning is just the latest in a series of train wrecks for Rudy Giuliani and the president. They can't get their facts straight. They keep changing every interview they give. The facts take on a new life of their own. And this is what happens when you lie and try to cover up. And this is exactly what happens.
Giuliani also said this morning that he expects that Trump fixer Michael Cohen will cooperate in the investigations, but investigators might be disappointed because Cohen doesn't have any incriminating information about President Trump. I imagine that you think he shouldn't be so sure about that.
Well, no, I think he should be absolutely unsure about that. I don't think there's any question, I've been saying this for a while, that Michael Cohen is going to turn state's evidence on the president, and I'm confident that there's going to be a lot of evidence and a lot of conduct that's going to come to light. I mean, the story, Jake, if we can just concentrate on this $130,000 payment, and I don't want to say story because now it's stories, the stories that they are trying to peddle to the American people are forever changing over the last few months and even over the last 72 hours. Now Rudy Giuliani is trying to claim that he really doesn't know the facts, isn't really up to speed as to the most basic facts. I mean, these are facts that you would find out as an attorney in the first 30 minutes of a meeting with a client. This is not that complicated of a situation. Did the president know about the $130,000 payment? When did he know about it? Did he know about the agreement? Did he reimburse it? And how did he reimburse it? I mean, I don't understand what's so complicated about this unless you're trying to hide things.
Well, and we tried to get clarity from Kellyanne Conway on that earlier in the program and did not get any clarity on that. Giuliani argued this morning that it's very clear the president has not violated any campaign finance laws over this hush money payment. He says the payment would have been made regardless of the presidential campaign. And even if it had been campaign related, it wasn't a loan or an expenditure because the president reimbursed it. Is that right?
No, that's not right. I mean, Rudy Giuliani evidently he claims to not know the facts, but he most assuredly does not know campaign finance law. That's not campaign finance law. Rudy Giuliani seems to believe that if the payment was not made with campaign dollars, that somehow there's no campaign finance violation. That's not the law. I think it's clear that, look, if this $130,000 reimbursement was all above board and they weren't trying to hide anything or trying to skirt campaign finance law, then why didn't the president just write a check or send a wire for $130,000 in reimbursement funds and be done with it? Why this whole scheme about the invoices and the retainer and all of this wind up, the formation of the LLC by Michael Cohen? I mean, these are not actions that you take if something's above board.
Well, I guess the argument that Rudy Giuliani is trying to make is he did all that to hide the payment from his family, from Melania and others, because he wanted to spare his family the personal embarrassment, but it didn't have to do with the campaign. You can't see that argument?
Well, I can see that argument, but I don't understand why. I mean, that presupposes that the president's family has full visibility into every payment that the president makes. I mean, the president could have paid this through any number of organizations or entities that he has. I'm confident of that without his family finding out about it. I just don't think that passes a smell test. I don't think any of this passes a smell test, and it violates fundamental principles of common sense. I mean, you don't have to be an attorney, you don't have to be highly educated to see through this nonsense, and that's a big problem for them as it relates to their strategy and their lies. I mean, it's very simple for the American people to see what's going on here.
Giuliani also said this morning he didn't think the settlement, $130,000, was particularly substantial. Take a listen.
I know this sounds funny to people there at home. I never thought $130,000 was a real payment. It's a nuisance payment. When I settled this when it was real or a real possibility, it's a couple $1 million, not $130,000. But people don't go away for $130,000.
People don't go away for $130,000. Is Rudy Giuliani right that in the big scheme of things, this is a nuisance payment in terms of the value? Because if he really had an affair with Stormy Daniels and there was evidence of it, the payment would have been much more substantial?
No, I don't agree with that, Jake. I mean, I think it's well known that Donald Trump is incredibly cheap in many aspects of his life and has been for decades. So the whole idea that they just threw out $130,000 as a nuisance payment to someone that they had concluded was lying and that he had never had an affair with is absurd. I mean, these are guys that have trumpeted their tough negotiating skills, him and Michael Cohen, for decades. They now want to believe that a woman came with her hand out and they just promptly paid $130,000. It's not believable.
Your client, Stormy Daniels, appeared on Saturday Night Live last night. I understand it was just a joke, a lighthearted appearance, but there's also ongoing litigation here. Doesn't this potentially hurt your client's case?
No, Jake, I don't think at all. I mean, it's a comedy skit. I thought she did a remarkable job on it. I thought it was very, very funny. I mean, you'll remember that Donald Trump has been on Saturday Night Live when he ran for president. So I don't think it did any harm for the case whatsoever. And I think it gave the American people another view of her, that she's very talented and funny, and they had an opportunity to see a side of her that perhaps they haven't seen before. So I thought it was great.
All right, Michael Avenatti, Stormy Daniels' attorney, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.